Going through the catalog of my videos, I see what type of videos I make, so I don't have to make it again. One of the videos that I made last year was my top 5 AEW wrestlers of 2021, and it's 2022, so you know what that means. What are, in my opinion, the top 5 wrestlers in AEW of 2022? And this is gonna be my opinion, so don't get all butthurt or anything about this. It's my opinion, so it's probably gonna be correct. Oh, and before we get started, unlike last time where I gave like a bunch of honorable mentions, I'm only gonna give one. So let's get this out of the way. My honorable mention is Toni Storm. Now, the reason why Toni Storm is my honorable mention is, out of all the women in the AEW roster, she's the only one that consistently has given us bangers. And think about it. Jade Cargill is still not ready, match ready to give us bangers. And that's okay, because that's not her purpose in AEW. Thunder Rosa looked like she was gonna get this amazing title run. She was gonna be a world beater. She had great matches with Serena Deeb and all that stuff, but apparently some incidents with Britt Baker and her group kind of shambled all that, and apparently she's injured from what they told us and what she said in that 30-second interview, and apparently she's coming back in February or March of 2023, so I can't wait for that. Britt Baker, I already told my I don't have a disdain for her. It's more of like just me being tired of seeing Britt Baker. How would we miss you if you don't go away? I just feel like she needs a break. Jamie Hayter has potential to be wrestler in 2023, but she's barely getting started this year, so I don't think it's right for her. Everyone else has been hot or cold, and no one except Toni Storm has given us good matches. And honestly, we have to thank her because she did a pretty good job of being interim women's champion, and it's pretty cool that they say that it's not an interim women's champion, it's an actual title reign. So at least that's in the record books, because Toni Storm had good matches with a lot of people. She had a good match with Thunder Rosa at Forbidden Door. It's just that sadly had to be the worst match of that night, but it was still a good match. Thunderstorm, that whole rivalry with Toni and Thunder Rosa against Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter was weird. It was more of like them poking fun at Thunder Rosa sandbagging, which turned into a legitimate problem. But you know what? That's not the issue. That's not what we're talking right now. I'm giving my flowers to Toni Storm. She deserves it. And, I can't wait for the rematch between Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm. Now for the actual list. Number 5, we have the Ocho, the influencer, the magician, the wizard, whatever his name is going to be, Chris Jericho. And the reason why I put Chris Jericho in number 5 is, when you think about it, Chris Jericho is a double-edged sword, because he's really entertaining and is helping a lot of people in the JAS. Like Jake Hager was like doing nothing. Now he's over with his hat. 2.0 are good wrestlers that are finally getting their due. Daniel Garcia has potential. Sammy Guevara is literally the ultimate heel, because no one likes him, but in a way we like to boo him. So it's kind of good that he's in TV, especially with his wife Ty Mello Conti, or what's her name? Ty Mello Conti. Anna Jay's there. I guess she looks good. I mean, it's better than what she was doing in the Dark Order. So Jericho has good moment, but I feel like it kind of derailed probably Eddie Kingston's run, because remember, Eddie Kingston in the beginning of the year was super popular, but I felt him being associated with Chris Jericho for literally half of 2022 kind of fumbled him. And then with the incident with Sammy Guevara, and I think they're gonna do this whole gimmick where he's trying to like not lose control. I just feel like it kind of derailed him. But Chris Jericho for himself, I think, is doing a great job. He was able to handle the JAS and Blackpool Combat Club rivalry, even though it was way too long. I felt like it did give us a couple of gems, like the Anarchy in the Arena, Blood and Guts, that amazing match at Revolution, Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho. That was a great match. Definitely must watch. It was probably the best like non-gimmicked match, not like a dog collar or a ladder match. It was probably the best regular match of the night, and it was the first one, so good for him. And even after that, with his whole Ring of Honor title run, it got a little boring because they were kind of force feeding us that for a long time, and I think the goal was to get a Ring of Honor TV deal, and that sadly never happened, which I mean is for the best, because I don't think they would have allowed the Briscoes to be in TV TNT because they were probably getting another deal for TNT or TBS. I mean, they showed them literally the last show. They showed them over there talking about that dog collar match at a Ring of Honor Final Battle. So that's interesting. But ranting aside, I feel like Chris Jericho did a great job wrestling all these former Ring of Honor wrestlers. He's doing his best work trying to stay relevant, but at the same time letting other people, you know, with the big angles like Jon Moxley, MJF, it's their time to shine. Chris Jericho was already champion. He was the first one. So I feel like it was a good way to have him stay relevant, but at the same time doing his best work. And, you know, the Fatal 4-Way at Full Gear was amazing. That was a great match. His match against Claudio was a spectacle, especially with the ending. And, you know, right now, I think yesterday, as the day of the recording, he put over Action Andretti, who's this like young star. He looks great. I saw some clips. He's really good in the ring. So apparently something's gonna happen with that. But yeah, you know, flowers to Chris Jericho. It's just that, you know, I think Chris Jericho in a way has damaged other people's reputation in order to increase his. But it's just a theory. It's just a theory. It's a game theory. So don't put my head on fire, Chris Jericho. I beg of you. All right, number 4 on the list is Wardlow. Now the reason why Wardlow is on this list is ever since January up to, I will say, May, he was probably the biggest thing in AEW. Probably even bigger than like CM Punk or MJF. Like, that guy was so over every time they hear Wardlow. Remember, he didn't even have theme music. He was just walking in the arena, like casually walking, and they were chanting his name. He was power bombing everyone left and right. His win in Revolution, his match against MJF at Double or Nothing, it was amazing. He just destroyed MJF. And yes, it did kind of suck that MJF kind of no-sold it when he did that awesome promo to Tony Khan, but hey, you know, it is what it is. So, but I feel like after Wardlow won the TNT Championship, it felt like he was aimless, you know? Like, they were trying to give him like opponents to face, but they didn't feel special, you know? They had him face Jay Lethal, Orange Cassidy. He feuded with Mark Sterling for some reason. He beat Scorpio Sky, but I think it was because Scorpio Sky was legit injured, so they had to get the TNT title away from him. It was just this whole big, you know, mess with Wardlow's booking. And finally something's interesting with Samoa Joe, and in my opinion, I feel like it's better if he doesn't win the TNT title back. He didn't lose it, but he should probably say, I'm gonna focus on the world title, I'm gonna beat MJF, but he's gonna focus on Samoa Joe. Maybe Samoa Joe puts, you know, someone, you know, else for the TNT title. Ricky Starks, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin again, maybe Miro. Malachi Black, I was about to say Alistair. Malachi Black could be TNT champion. That would be pretty interesting. But yeah, I feel like Wardlow should have only gotten the world title, and I think that's a good way. I mean, he didn't lose the TNT title, because remember, Samoa Joe pinned Powerhouse Hobbs, so that's a good way out. And he could just be like, you know what, I'm gonna focus on the world title. But enough talking. The reason why he's so low on the list is because of his bad booking. But the first, like, honestly, the first half of the year, he was over. He was like the next big thing, the next star. He was the next Goldberg. But sadly, that never happened. You know, his booking was bad. It wasn't bad, I guess. It was just not must-see TV, sadly. He kind of peaked when he was facing MJF, and it's probably sad that his momentum kind of, you know, dropped pretty fast if you think about it. There you go. Hopefully something can go good. Now, number 3 on the list is a little controversial, but it made me think back and forth. I could switch 1 and 3 like forever because there's a lot of debate between those two, but number 3 on this list of the best wrestlers in AEW 2022 is MJF. Now, I know what you must be thinking. Why MJF so low? Shouldn't he be number 1 or 2? Well, think about it. So in the beginning of the year, he was still feuding with CM Punk. You know, you don't like me, you're my childhood hero, now I have to break you, he's the devil now. They had an amazing dog collar match at Revolution. After that, Wardlow and MJF started having a feud because Wardlow costed MJF the match. So now MJF, who has custody of Wardlow's AEW contract, is like saying, well, you want to face me, that's fine, you could face me, but you have to go through all these obstacles. No, he brought in Big Bill, Lance Archer, he put him in like multi-man matches, he did all of this, and at the end we did get what we wanted. But as I said in the last entry, you know, MJF kind of ruined that, I guess, emotional send-off, because he just came out and buried Tony Khan, which honestly has to be one of the best promos of the year. No doubt about it. Best promos of the year. The best promo of 2022, honestly. And after that, he went on a little break, probably for 3-4 months, until coming back in August for All Out. He came in, won the Casino ladder match thanks to the help of Stokely Hathaway, even though they're not in association anymore. It's kind of weird. After he won that match, you know, keep your eye on the devil, and he was over there looming over Jon Moxley, who was the AEW World Champion after, well, that incident that happened at All Out. And I feel like, I think I said it before, but I feel like it was supposed to be CM Punk versus MJF. You know, the third match, the final match of the trilogy. Who will win? Is CM Punk, the established veteran, or MJF, the hungry challenger? I think that was supposed to be the way MJF would win the title, but you know, that happened. MJF had this weird like feud rivalry with Jon Moxley, and William Regal was involved, and it was all about William Regal telling MJF wasn't ready when he could have signed in the WWE. He was too inexperienced and he knew he wasn't going to survive in that environment, so he wanted him to go to the indies and grow as a person. But MJF felt like it was an insult to him. He felt like he was being negated of his dreams of being in the WWE, the biggest wrestling company of all time. He felt like he wanted to die. That was literally in his promo. He felt like he wanted to die because he got denied by William Regal, who was of course head of like talent relations at the time. So there's that story. Jon Moxley was there as a third wheel, honestly. And the match at Full Gear, it was okay. It could have been better, but it did its job with MJF finally becoming world champion. And we thought we were gonna get this William Regal MJF association, but then apparently William Regal wanted out of AEW because Triple H became basically creative booker of WWE now that Vince McMahon is gone. So he went back. He's probably going back to WWE because, you know, he's friends with Triple H and his son is in NXT, so that makes sense. And they just writ off William Regal by punching him in the back with the brass knuckles, and apparently he's off. He's probably gonna feud with Daniel Bryan Danielson, and this makes sense because Winter is Coming just happened, and Danielson, you know, chased him out of the arena. So that's gonna be an interesting feud. We're definitely gonna have bangers of a match. But the reason why MJF is in number 3 is, while he's good, he hasn't wrestled that much, and I know that's what he wants. He said in like multiple promos that he is like an attraction. He is like Andre the Giant, where when you see him wrestle, it's a sight. It's something you have to pay the big bucks to see. And I kind of like that for MJF. And I feel like guys like Kenny Omega are starting to realize that, you know what, maybe storylines and promos are the way to go. I feel like Kenny Omega learned that the hard way, because when he got injured, he was literally like, you know, maybe I shouldn't have taken that bump. Maybe I should have, you know, slowed down. And when you look at these past matches, they're not as like exciting as the ones in like Japan or in the beginning of AEW. They're more story driven and all that stuff, and I feel like MJF has that effect on probably the AEW roster, because as you've seen in his matches, they're not really showy. They kind of remind me of like late 80s 90s like NWA, you know, guys like Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, Barry Windham, and all those types of guys. And I feel like that's what MJF draws his inspiration from, and it's kind of cool that MJF is bringing in this old school wrestling into this new generation, because it's good, because he's gonna be safe when you wrestle him. There's a possibility you can get injured, but he's not gonna risk his life on some sort of move or dive. And 2, it's gonna bring longevity to him, so if he wants to wrestle back when he's like 45 or 50, that could probably happen, you know, because at the end of the day, MJF is a mark for wrestling. Even though he hates, you know, being called that, he is a mark, and he's probably gonna have that wrestling itch. So I feel like MJF at number 3 is a good placement, because remember, he had that break, so we didn't have MJF always, and I felt like the other 2 wrestlers have done more with what they have been given, and MJF has been given basically everything and has always hit, you know, home runs. But these 2 guys have been given kind of like shit deals or shit events that have been, you know, transpiring in their life, and they've always made it gold. So number 2 on this list is interesting, because number 2 is FTR or Dax Hardwood. Now the reason why FTR is on this list is, well, there's no surprise. FTR is probably the best tag team wrestlers tag team in AEW. I love the Acclaim. I always do. You know, scissor me daddy. I love it. But I feel like the Acclaimed aren't ready for like big time matches. You know, I don't think they're gonna have amazing matches with the Briscoes, with the Young Bucks, with Aussie Open. They're not gonna have banger of a matches. But you know who will? FTR. You know, ever since the beginning of the year, you know, they had that awesome match with CM Punk and Jon Moxley. They turned babyface. They had those matches. The trilogy with the Briscoes has to be one of the best rivalry that hasn't had a good build. Think about it. The majority of the build is just FTR saying, you know what, Briscoes, we accept your challenge at this Ring of Honor event. And the only time you'll see the Briscoes is at Twitter where they're like, yo, you know, we can't be MTV, but we'll still beat your ass, FTR. Like, that was the whole thing. And every time they had banger of matches, their match at Supercard of Honor, amazing. Their match at Death Before Dishonor, the 2 out of 3 falls, amazing. Their dog collar match at Final Battle, amazing. These guys can't miss. You know, they're always hitting home runs as well. And Dax Harwood has to be one of the most interesting wrestlers in 2022. Besides his victory against Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood hasn't won any singles matches, but always puts out bangers, whether it's with Adam Cole, Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson. He's one of the best wrestlers of all time, and I feel like he recognizes that because he's so humble right now. He's so appreciative that, you know, his passions, you know, his family and his wrestling career are doing so well that he's living the best life. But at the same time, he has to be disappointed that they're technically not the top tag team, because that's the Acclaimed. And a lot of people, and specifically Jim Cornette, have a theory that it's jealousy from the Young Bucks, and I don't feel like it. It could be. I don't know, because you never know with people backstage. You know, a lot of people think CM Punk is the big evil bully, and a lot of people think it's the Elite being manipulative, but I don't know, whatever it is. I feel like the booking for FTR wasn't the best, but as I said before, even though they had such horrible booking, they made chicken salad out of chicken shit. It's amazing what FTR can do, and yeah, flowers to FTR. We'll see how 2023 goes. But now it is time for who is number one. And now I told you it could be, you know, back and forth with MJF and this guy, but I felt like he should be number one. Number one on my list has to be Jon Moxley. Remember, he came back in the end of 2021. He was supposed to face Brian Kendrick, and well, he said some stuff, and he came back and had a good, you know, thing going. And in 2022, he had this rivalry with Bryan Danielson. That rivalry was okay. I mean, it led to William Regal debuting and the Blackpool Combat Club forming, but I felt like more could have been done with that. But he's always had banger of a matches, and it's interesting because at the AEW after Double or Nothing, CM Punk, of course, had to relinquish the title, and we had to get an interim champion. That's when Jon Moxley stepped up and became champion after beating Hiroshi Tanahashi at Forbidden Door. And after that, he's been having nothing but bangers and bangers and bangers. And that's the fact that he's a part of the Blackpool Combat Club, who was having a feud with the JAS, Jericho's group. So that's interesting. And they had a couple of matches while Jon Moxley was world champion. And then CM Punk finally came back, and we had this interesting thing going on about whether CM Punk, is he having doubts? I mean, he couldn't be a good world champion the first time. How is it going to be one the second time? And there's this, you know, Jon Moxley, he's just the ultimate wrestler. Can he beat him? And he did. Then that situation happened, and Jon Moxley had to step up again. Apparently, it is said that Jon Moxley was supposed to have a break in August after All Out, but because of this situation, he had to step up again, and he became world champion. Then after that, he had to go into a storyline with MJF, where he was, as I said before, he was the third wheel of the rivalry. It was mostly MJF and William Regal. But Jon Moxley has also done some of the best promos out there as well, with MJF telling him that he's nothing but a brat and he should step up, stop cheating, and fight me like a man. And well, that sadly didn't happen. After that, you know, after Jon Moxley lost to MJF at Full Gear, currently right now, now that William Regal isn't there, they're gonna have to do such a big shift and change. And apparently right now hopefully they finish the JAS storyline, because honestly it's getting so stale. But I just wonder what will happen next next, because Bryan Danielson is feuding with MJF, and Bryan Danielson is, you know, in the same group as Jon Moxley. You know, are we gonna get a triple threat? Are we gonna have Jon Moxley re-challenging MJF, you know, to finish off the trilogy that they have? It's gonna be a interesting, you know, 2023 on the way they book MJF in the world title scene. But Jon Moxley, he carried 2022, honestly, in AEW when everything was going bad, when MJF left because he felt like he was getting disrespected, when the Elite and CM Punk left after All Out. Jon Moxley, he was carrying AEW, honestly, just like Tony Storm was with the women's division. That's why Jon Moxley is probably the best wrestler in AEW in 2022, because he came back with a comeback, and not a lot of wrestlers can do that, have banger after banger, have matches that are really good and entertain the crowd, because, you know, Bryan Danielson and MJF are right, the crowd is fickle, and I think besides Full Gear, Jon Moxley has always been cheered and beloved. So that's pretty much it. My voice is dying down. I think I have the cold or the flu or something, but hopefully you guys love my voice and it gives you a dose of serotonin. But these are my top 6 picks of the best AEW wrestlers right now. It's pretty long and I kind of ranted a little bit, and I apologize for that, but hopefully you guys watch it. And I have big plans for 2023, let's just say, and I want to do something different than what I've been doing in 2022. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. See ya.